Hello all, welcome. I am the D&D Lore Wizard. Today we'll begin our first in a series of videos telling the story of my 4th edition party from the beginning. And if enough of you enjoy it, the highlights of our story all the way up to level 20. So, beginning at the start. My character, Kavar, as I've said before, is a half-drow, half-moon elf assassin. I started this class thinking it was going to be something different and was disappointed. So my DM let me change to the Daggermaster Rogue at level 7. The only other person in the party I knew before this adventure was the human barbarian, Torin. The rest of the party we met at a tavern in Silvery Moon, after being told to meet there with the offer of work by a half-elf named Halasar. There we met 2 of his associates, Druel, a dark elf, and Muriel, a red-headed half-elf. They were there to assess us and give us our orders. We also met an elven ranger named Dante, a tiefling monk named Karas, a human paladin named Vilya, and a human warlord named Vigiles. Halasar had interests to the northwest in the mountains near Silvery Moon. Apparently, the dwarves of Mithril Hall were having some problems with a bug nest, so we were tasked with investigating and solving the problem, and then reporting back to Halasar with our findings. Seemed simple enough. It was about a 5-day journey on foot, and seeing as how horses were not provided and we didn't want to spend the extra coin, we set out early on foot the next morning. Torin and Kavari learned very little about the others on the first few days. Suspicion is natural in the adventuring business, and everybody's kind of wary at first. And having been the sole 2 survivors of the last party that they were in, they weren't in a hurry to make friends so quickly. The group, for the most part, was very quiet and kept to themselves. The paladin made sure to polish his plate armor and shield every morning so that they were shiny, so shiny as to be almost reflective, and the monk would do his exercises and training. Dante and Kavar would swap off watches as they had the best night eyes and were most trained for spotting ambushes. On night number 3, the party was alerted to an ambush by a hobgoblin and some of his goblin lackeys. We came up with a plan quickly. Kavar and Dante would stealth and join the fray after the heavier hitters had already engaged, walking into the trap, as it were. So with this plan in mind, we melted into the shadows, and the party walked into the trap. The goblins jumped out at the party, but as we had already spotted them, the element of surprise was really in our favor. After the goblins had closed the melee, Dante opened up from stealth at the rear, behind the goblins, so that they were sandwiched in between him and the rest of the party, which panicked them, until the hobgoblin emerged and rallied them with a war cry. That is, until his throat was closed off by Kavar's garrote. While the party finished dispatching the goblins, Kavar finished strangling the life out of the brute. Ironically enough, he found a garrote on the hobgoblin that seemed to be its favored weapon. Apparently karma came around unfavorably. The fight did have the effect of bonding everyone a little more, though, as we all saw that we could handle ourselves and would watch each other's backs when the blades were flying. The next evening, we came upon some ruins in the middle of the forest. Just some pillars with an altar on raised stone dais, with stairs leading down. Curious, we started to go investigate as people started coming out of the structure. Hooded, robed figures carrying something to the altar. We realized then that they were going to sacrifice a being, when we ran at them, shouting for them to stop. And the leader just looked up at us and shouted, "Follow Dagon!" and plunged his knife into the being. The fight was short. They really were just robed, crazed fanatics with knives. But we were regretful that we weren't able to save the being, which we found to be a young elf. The paladin was perplexed by the Dagon reference, and as none of us recognized that any god by that name, and nothing was found on the bodies that gave us any clues. As a party, we all turned to look at the dark, gaping stairway as a group and said, "Yeah, there's no way we're going down there," as they then proceeded to walk down the stairs, saying the whole time what a bad idea this was. Our DM found our weakness. We were insatiably curious and had to solve any mystery. Now, in the lower structure of this ruin, there was a small encounter with a few more cultists and a swarm of rats. The rat swarm, as a creature, actually can be more dangerous than you would think, as it has a whole pile of hit points. And for level 1 and 2 characters, a couple of hits and it will knock us unconscious. So the paladin, in a stroke of genius, said, "I have a tower shield. Instead of a weapon attack, can I just smash them with it?" DM allows it. Natural 1. Now, in 4th edition, we had crit cards for both crit fails and crit successes. And anytime you rolled a natural 1 or a natural 20, the DM would pull a card at random and then attempt to describe how it happened. So, after the paladin crit fails, he has to describe how he drops his shield, and the rats then pick it up and move around with it, gaining a +2 to their armor class. The monk, Karas, just rolls his eyes and mumbles something about being too old for this, and then stomped them to death. We exited the dungeon bruised and battered, but giving the paladin no end of hell for this hilarious whiff, and fell off to sleep a safe way from the ruins. The next morning, we entered the foothills in the mountains and saw before us a bridge to the first guardhouse of Mithril Hall. Entering the guardhouse, we spoke with the dwarf in charge and a orc shaman, curious that they were working together. The orc was from the kingdom of Many Arrows close by, and the dwarf was the head of a mining crew. And they both reported that a little ways off, there was a cave that the dwarves had been doing some excavating by, and the mining party had gone missing. And that the orcs had seen bugs, large bugs in the area, and had been missing several of their people who had gone off alone to hunt. They both tasked us with exploring the cave to find any signs of the dwarves or any of the orcs that had gone missing, and to bring back a report, and if we found anything, to destroy it. And that's where we're going to end this part of the story. Let me know if you liked this part, and stay tuned until the next time where you find out just how deep we've stepped into just a bug hunt. Wherever you are, have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, and may Sehanine bless you.